Welcome to qualifying here in Mexico, where the cars will be going out on track very shortly and battling it out to secure pole for tomorrow's Grand Prix. Today's qualifying should be an interesting affair as the drivers try to put in their best laps on this fascinating circuit.
It's difficult to predict who's going to master this circuit when it really matters. This 4.4 kilometre track will certainly provide a mix of challenges to both the drivers and their cars. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to come out on top.
Round 17 of the F1 2015 Championship mode on my channel. As always, we're driving the Sauber and we're back. Indeed back. I mean, it has been a long while since I made an F1 2015 Championship mode video, as we are currently in qualifying and obviously still in that big battle for the championship with I think 3 more rounds to go. This one, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, I think, so 3 more in total. Yeah, we are still very much in that championship hunt. So in qualifying right now, going for my final run, presumably, or the penultimate run, at least 1 minute and 50 seconds, which is remaining on the clock. Currently on 9th place only with a 120.4, but surely I can improve on that, so let's see what we can do. Now the reason that, you know, the uploads have been so inconsistent is as I have an invalidated lap time. Let me actually come back to that story later, why I haven't really been uploading this series anymore, as we are going to do another attempt then because of that that aborted lap, so to say, or that cancelled lap, the invalid lap. The rules have been set to strict for the first time in this series. I have recorded this a couple of months back, so it's a little bit of a you know, of an experience for me as well. I vaguely remember what exactly is going to happen this race, so you know, I will surprise myself maybe a little bit because of that. But around that time when I recorded, it was a couple of days after the strict rules were being implemented in the game, and before that they were not implemented. And sometimes I talked about this was a cut. Before that, then the game didn't register it as a cut. But that won't be the case right now. So the rules have been set to strict. Have got to stay within the track limits as you would always do. And we'll see if that plays any factor in the race at all, because this is a track where you can cut relatively easy, especially around this part where we just cut through. Anyway, this is the final lap I was talking about. P10 at the moment, so we really need to look for improvement, because if we're going to start in P10, we're gonna make life a bit more difficult than possibly should be doing. Final corner to go though. Nice run on the exit of that corner, up into a rich mixture of course as well for the run to the line, and we set a 119.2, so much better lap time, and it puts us up in P3, probably behind the Mercedes. Yes, it does.
Today, with both cars on the front row for the race tomorrow.
Well, it's a great result for the team, and one that we were expecting from them. Tomorrow, they'll be expecting both cars on the podium if it all goes to plan.
Still losing out by 4/10 on Rosberg though.
It's Sunday, and that means it's race day here at the Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez. The cars are being prepared. Let's join them trackside for the start of the Mexican Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg doesn't have to shout about his chances of winning the race. He did his talking on the track and grabbed pole position when it mattered yesterday. He's got to be odds on for victory today.
He was driving on another level yesterday, so it wouldn't be a surprise if he just pulls away from the field and is untouchable. But as we know, anything can happen in Formula 1, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Daniel Kvyat will hope that the DRS problems that he suffered earlier in the weekend are now behind him. Otherwise, it could be a very long Grand Prix for him today.
There was a scary point when it came open just before turn 6, and Daniel was lucky to catch the car, or he could have been a passenger heading towards the barriers. The team have said they've since resolved the issue, so hopefully he'll be fine today.
And there we are then, on the grid, dry race, at least that's what it looks like. A free stop for this race, and 36 laps of racing as we see the lights coming on. And the 17th round will be on the way shortly, and it is already on the way, in fact, with a really poor getaway off the line. Very important indeed. The Mercedes cars immediately fly off. Raikkonen on the inside of us. Don't really want to lose any places on the start, of course, so we're going to have to be aggressive coming into the first couple of corners. Raikkonen still alongside us. We have the outside line, will become the inside line for this little chicane. And so we've got past Raikkonen back again with the Mercedes having a really big battle. Going by Hamilton and even picking up a lot of slipstream on Rosberg, going on the inside of Rosberg in fact for the lead of the race. Rosberg braking rather late though. We still have the inside line. Will become the outside line for the next corner. Still side by side. Of course I have to leave him room and we make the move stick around the outside. So after the first couple of corners taking the lead of the race while the Mercedes cars were battling a little bit. And yeah, I think thanks to that we got that position. So crucial though for the championship of course. Mainly, you know, our main championship rival is Rosberg. Hamilton is a bit of a factor, but at this time not so much as Rosberg, I don't think. Of course, as I said before, it has been a long while as well for me, so you know it's a little bit. Yeah, I don't exactly know what the situation is at the moment. Not in terms of championship, but neither in. How are we looking? Is this a good lap? Because usually when you are really into a game, you do kind of spot the mistakes you make a little bit easier, and you do kind of know when you have to brake. And so it's hard for me to judge right now whether I brake too early, whether I brake too late, that kind of stuff. See, I think I braked a little bit too early. That could have been a little bit later on the brakes. But it's fine. No problems there. I will be trying to do the final 3 races relatively close to each other. I don't want to have a month-long gap in between the videos again. Especially not because it's the end of the championship and we really want to wrap it up if we can. It would be amazing though if we can actually win the championship being in Sauber. Of course it's not the fastest car at all, but yeah, that would be very nice. Definitely the power unit has helped us throughout this championship, I would say. The Ferrari power unit. For example, if you would be driving in a McLaren Honda, yes, you would have more grip for sure. But around tracks like Monza, I imagine it will be very hard to defend or pass another cars. Rosberg has a look on the inside here, side by side. There we go. Rosberg leaving plenty of room for us on the outside. That was very kind of him. But Rosberg immediately trying to apply some pressure on us already in the second lap of the race. The DRS has not been enabled yet. It will be in the next lap, however. Going on to rich mixture, of course, for this very long straight. It really is a really long straight, so maybe Rosberg can have a look on the inside of us. Doesn't look like it. See, this is what I was talking about. Ferrari power unit definitely helping to defend from the Mercedes car behind. As we skip to the end of lap 3, so opening up lap 4. Order is still the same, but very important that we stay ahead of Rosberg, of course. Mainly having the focus on the championship battle. As Rosberg has a good run, of course, this time with DRS. He has the inside line for the first turn. Brakes also really late. Can he make the corner stick? He does. He does make the move stick, and he makes it stick into the corner. So we're gonna have to settle for second then, but not for long. Rosberg again having the DRS because there is one detection point. Right in the slipstream of Rosberg on the inside for the next corner, down to standard mixture. This section, if we stay in rich mixture, we'll probably get a bit too much wheel spin. We made some contact with Rosberg there. Not sure who's at fault for that. Still side by side in that section. But around the outside we go. Bit of wheel spin on the exit there, trying to just put the power down, because I really felt like I had to get on the power as soon as possible to make the move stick on Rosberg. But yeah, that at least we could get him back. But we aren't really looking strong at this moment, I would say, because the whole top 6 is in the train behind me. I am the group or the leader of that group, and I just can't seem to pull away from those guys at the moment. Lap 5 of the race then, Rosberg launches it up the outside, brakes rather late, or a bit too late, and Hamilton capitalizes on it. And now Rosberg is in 4th, I think. At least he dropped a little bit further back in this train, which is good for us. Again, Rosberg is our main rival, I would say. Into lean mixture for this section right now, trying to save the rear tires a little bit for that section. Of course, it's a slow section, so you tend to get a little bit of wheel spin coming out of those slow corners. On the inside here, trying to defend from Hamilton. Raikkonen has got a good run on Hamilton though. He cannot go for a move. Hamilton does the same as what Rosberg did. Raikkonen does it as well, looking in the mirror. They are side by side though, and Rosberg almost getting past Raikkonen, I believe. But not quite. And now the gap to Hamilton is about a second, and this is the time where I then this is one of those moments where you could pull away if you start to push right now. Like if you had the pace, you would push right now and at least get that Mercedes car out of your DRS range, and then you can possibly build on you know, a gap, as I get a warning for actually in track limits there. Not exactly sure whether I exceeded it, but okay. But I just did not have the pace to create such gap, and so Hamilton closes it again. See, there we go, 6 tenths already after a sector, so he closed up by 3 tenths, as our engineer said. Pit in, but we don't do that just yet, and so we go on for another lap, lap 7 of the race. It seems like Raikkonen behind us pitted. Maybe Rosberg has done the same. Hamilton once again being really close behind us, but he backs out of it. It doesn't look like, you know, into turn 1, it's, as we have a cut there, that was definitely a cut. It doesn't really look as if that really long straight is really helping anyone behind us overtaking, which I find weird. You know, I thought, you know, such a long straight, surely if the car behind us has DRS and he picks up the slipstream, overtaking will be really easy. Now I have to say that I've been running rich mixture down the main straight for every single lap, I believe, almost. And that definitely does help, but still, that straight is so long, so I would expect to be, you know, for the Hamilton, for example, to be alongside at least, but, you know, 9 out of 10 times he isn't alongside even. As we'll have a look whether we pit at the end of this lap. We are supposed to pit already previous lap according to the engineer. Not doing so yet. Hamilton could launch it up the inside here as well if he's aggressive, you know. I leave the door wide open for him, so I wouldn't blame him if he goes on the inside. He doesn't do that, however, as we come into the pit lane. Lap 7 of the race indeed. Hamilton comes in behind us, and there's a Ferrari of Vettel in as well. Let's see where we end up in relative terms to Raikkonen and Rosberg. We'll pit it a little bit earlier, and thanks to that have an undercut. Again, switching to the option tire, and actually being held up is that, yeah, that is Hamilton. So Hamilton gets out in front again of us. That's really poor, to be honest. I thought Hamilton, you know, was quite far away. Well, quite far away. Far away enough to not be held up in the pit lane when entering the pit lane, as we see a Matt Maldonado coming up in our mirrors. That's never a good sign, but we stay ahead of him, luckily. So Hamilton having a bit of a gap then, and immediately, of course, I wanted to close that gap right now. Through that section closed up by a couple of tenths, if I can judge that visually. But where is Rosberg? Is Rosberg in front of Hamilton? Oh, that's Sainz. So is Rosberg then still behind Maldonado? It may look like it. Yeah, I think a Red Bull is leading. So that's good. So effectively Hamilton is now the leader. And we would be then in second. But we want to try to apply some pressure on Hamilton. Let him not pull away, as we see the effect of dirty air coming into play here. Generating a bit of understeer. But while Hamilton is behind Sainz, I do need to try to close up to him. Because he may be held up. He goes on the inside of Sainz. Sainz obviously is slow because of that, and I make a little bit of contact with Sainz. That was my bad, to be honest. That was pretty poor driving by me, to be honest. So we are still in the battle with Sainz, but getting past now. But Hamilton crucially gained a couple of tenths already while I made contact with Sainz, and so it's really hard to, you know, keep up with Hamilton. Also not having DRS, that is not going to help us at all. As the engineer says, up to P2 then, but it's not a surprise. But Rosberg, in the meantime, I really don't know where Rosberg is, but to be honest, it's maybe only better as well. Raikkonen at the moment in third. This is said, no idea where Rosberg is, as we have a penalty right now for corner cutting. You know, that there is ex-ownership debunked or exposed, or however you want to call it. First race on strict rules, and I immediately get a penalty, as we did the fastest lap of the race, trying to close up to Hamilton. But with that penalty now, it was basically all or nothing, and I started to, you know, as we have another. I am right now on the limit, and maybe it's not good, but with that 3-second penalty, I went really aggressive right now, and probably thanks to that we also closed up. But once again, I seem to be cutting every single corner there is right now as well. It are like 1 millimeter cuts, I would say, but you know, that doesn't matter. A cut is a cut, and the limit has to be drawn somewhere. So, you know, I don't blame the game for that. I just have to keep it within the track limits more. As we go to lean here while having DRS on Hamilton. See, this is what I mean, such a long straight. You pick up the slipstream, and even with the lean mixture, you should be able to cruise by Hamilton, which we do so. Already passed before the braking zone. Lap 14, excuse me. And so we get back into the lead. But why I was driving so aggressively right now is that I knew if I wanted to win the race now with that 3-second penalty, I just had to create a 3-second gap to Hamilton right now as well. But crucially, that could be really difficult because we couldn't do it in the first stint either. Let's see whether we can do it now though. Well, of course, because you drive more aggressively, there's also a higher chance that we will pick up another corner cut penalty. And there is one. Yep, there is a 6-second penalty right now. And once again, it was just such a tiny cut, but it's a cut. And now I was like, yep, that's gonna be a really tough task to create a 6-second gap to Hamilton. To be honest, this is a typical track where cutting can be, a little bit of a pain in the ass, because the curbs are relatively flat and there's like barely any grass around the track. It's a little bit like Sochi, to be honest, where there's a lot of runoff made by asphalt, as we have a look at the race director. But coming into the pit lane, I see again, what am I trying to point out here? Oh, Rosberg. See, Rosberg goes missing, so there is Rosberg. Rosberg, in fact, has a DNF behind his name. So Hamilton will be a tough task, and Hamilton once again has jumped us because we were too close to each other entering the pit lane. I mean, I really, don't like that, to be honest, but hey, it's the way it is. I'm gonna have to start all over again, trying to pass Hamilton, as Ricciardo is quite close behind us, not close enough to make a move into turn 1 though. But with Rosberg having a DNF then behind his name, it's probably a really lucky situation for us. And what we have to do now is just make sure that we are 6 seconds ahead of Raikkonen. If we can do that, we'll still hold on to P2. Yes, we could possibly get the win here as well, but that would mean I have to get by Hamilton in 16 laps time and create a 6-second gap. And judging by the race standards so far, it's gonna be a little bit too much of a task, to be honest. But you never know what's going to happen. Maybe Rosberg had an engine failure. Could as well happen to Hamilton. What is the gap to the Raikkonen? That is crucial. Is it more than 6 seconds at this time? It does look like it, although... Oh, Raikkonen went into the pit lane or either got passed by Vettel. So then we still don't have an indication to what the gap is. We'll see it in a second though, I'm sure. But at least maybe we could try to battle a little bit with Hamilton. Not too much though, because if we do it too much, then most likely we are going to lose some time to the next car, which is Vettel now. Let's see. There is no kind of gap coming up on the HUD. But when you look on the minimap, there are 3 cars in relatively close proximity of each other. Would that then be Vettel as well, the next car on the minimap? Because judging on the minimap, that gap may be close to 6 seconds, but not quite yet, I think. So the engineer saying box again. Shout out to Justin. Justin, if you are watching box gaming. Why do I do a shout out to Justin? Well, the engineer said box, and Justin is owner of the box gaming YouTube channel. Hamilton comes into the pit lane though. We decide to stay out for another lap this time. So I think one more prime stint to go. 14 laps remaining in this race. Probably I felt like I had to do something different, maybe, because we couldn't really end up in front of Hamilton before. But Hamilton most likely will be on the prime tire right now, I imagine. And we'll be on the worn options, so maybe I'm just trying to perform some kind of overcut by pushing really hard this lap, and you can see that I am. But I doubt it will work. But at least try it. You can follow in again like a sheep in the pit lane, but why not try something different as well? It could pay dividend. Who knows? The engineer again comes screaming on the radio, pit in. Once again exceeding track limits. I have to be careful that I don't get a third penalty. That would be pretty horrendous. But I presume we'll be coming into the pit lane right now. Through the stadium section. 17.0 is the gap to Hamilton. Probably not enough to stay ahead. But where is Raikkonen? Raikkonen is back in third. But still we don't know what that gap is. Which I found really annoying, by the way. I just didn't know. Is this the prime tire? Probably not, is it? I don't even know. Thing is, I'm colorblind as well, so it doesn't make like easier for me. Whatever, it doesn't matter which tire we're on. We're just gonna have to push as hard as we can this thing, I reckon. 13 laps to go then in this race. Fresh set of tires, which is nice. Although, having said that, were they damaged? This could be a set we used in quali as well. Not entirely sure on that. Where's Raikkonen though? 4 seconds to Hamilton, so we lost out heavily by staying out. And with benefit of hindsight, it probably was the wrong choice. But at least I tried something. But the gap to Raikkonen is 3.3, so we need another 3 seconds at least to stay ahead of him and finish in second. Another tough task in front of us, I guess. But we're gonna have to try it. And as I said before, you know, I don't know which tire I'm on right now. Probably at the time I was driving I knew it, but I don't know it now. I think it's option again, to be honest. Is it? It's either the soft compound or the hard compound. I cannot tell the difference between the soft compound and hard compound. The colors are too similar for me, to be honest. The medium would be white, but certainly this is not white. That is something I know as well, despite being colorblind. Well, 19.9 from Hamilton, good lap by him. Behind Stevens right now, we completed our out lap. 5 seconds is the gap, 2.9 to Raikkonen. Bad news is that Raikkonen is actually pulling in on us. It does look like this is one of the tires from qualifying, so that would mean I am again on the option tires. Skipping to the beginning of lap 26, having a little bit of a cut. See, that's what I still have with this game. After a couple of laps, you test your limits. You know, you decide maybe turn in a little bit earlier, maybe take a little bit off the grass, maybe go, you know, with 3 wheels off the track. But does the game actually give a penalty or a warning for that as well? And then the conclusion is sometimes no. So still, the consistency is lacking a little bit. I like it, to be honest, the strict system. I'm a big fan of it. I think finally it is strict, which it has to be. Because, let's be honest, I have seen plenty of YouTubers, including myself by the way. I'm not trying to make myself look better than I am, because I am not. But I have seen some YouTubers, again including myself, who are sometimes like, no, I know I can cut this corner without getting a warning. And sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. I try to do it as less as possible, but sometimes, you know, I do see a few YouTubers who are like, you know, screw it, I'm just gonna cut every corner there is, even though it is by a millimeter. I try to avoid it, but you know, it's tough sometimes. And as I said, you sometimes just try to test your luck, as we are definitely on the prime tire now finally. You sometimes do test your luck a little bit in these races. After a couple of laps you do know where you can cut a little bit and where you cannot cut a little bit. It's just driver instinctive, I guess. You know, for example, this first turn, as we skipped by the way, but I know that first turn can be cut a little bit without the game giving a warning. But for example, in that section at the beginning of the second sector, who was that? That's Grosjean, okay. At the beginning of the second sector, it is really strict over there, to be honest, and I like that. That's the way it should be for every corner, pretty much. Also here you can cut it. Do I do it? Yeah, I think I do it. It is another, like a millimeter cut, but it doesn't give a warning there, but it would give a warning through this section, for example, for a millimeter cut. So, you know, it's still, in my opinion, lacks consistency, but probably it's hard to get right as well. At least we have something right now which is an improvement, to be honest, and that's something I really like to see as well. I also like the fact that I have been awarded a 6-second penalty. Of course, it's not nice for the end results, but at least the game finally got a little bit strict, because that was one of my complaints, my big complaints with this game. Not in particular F1 2015, but also, you know, the whole series so far. So 2010 up until 2015, up until this point. You could cut so many corners and the game would just not give a penalty. And for league racing, you know, I've been doing league racing myself on F1 2013, 12, 11, and not 10 I think, so 2011 up until 2013. You know, I noticed myself that a lot of drivers, sometimes myself too, although I try to keep it as clean as possible, were cutting corners quite, you know, obviously. You know, the thing is, the stewards at that time when I was league racing wouldn't really do anything. You know, they would mostly turn a blind eye to it, which I think you can do as a steward. As a league, you want to be clean. And I think that when I was driving, I think more people should have been penalized. But the stewards weren't, willing to do that. But now the game at least is willing to do that. And once again, I think it's a step forwards. That was a complete essay, pretty much, of what I think of it. But yeah, it is quite important for me. So hence why I talk about it for so long. Anyway, back to the race. How are we looking? Lap 29 out of 36, 4 seconds to Hamilton. That gap has pretty much stabilized, which is good news for us. We're currently on the pace of the Mercedes, I would say, but that car on the minimap behind us, is it Raikkonen or not? I think the HUD is a little bit glitched out with regards to the gap to the car behind. And due to that, I cannot really get an indication how am I doing, or how I am doing to the car behind in comparison to us. 6 more laps to go, 7 including this one. And again, we don't get the gap to Raikkonen. Let's assume that the car behind us is actually Raikkonen. I'm in fact having a look at the race director now. Everyone is on primes except for Ricciardo and Sainz. But where is Raikkonen? I'm just gonna check his lap times because I had no idea this time. He's doing 120.9. So, then I knew what kind of lap times he was doing. We just set a 120.6 and the gap to Hamilton is still about 4 seconds. So that gap has definitely stabilized, as the engineer also says now. Raikkonen is lapping slightly slower. So, I was happy with the pace at this time. It seems like we are a bit better on the prime tire, to be honest. As again, I have a millimeter cut, but it is a cut again. And so we get a warning, rightly so. And, come on, just don't pick up that third penalty. Don't do it. When you get a warning like that, you are more careful for the next couple of laps or so. But then after a couple of laps, you just, you go a little bit more with a bit more aggression. And it's just waiting when you make another cut and get another warning. But the thing is, there we go. That's the third penalty, 3-second time penalty. Could have seen it coming as well. Could have seen it coming. And now we're just... I screwed up. I definitely screwed up. Once again, I'm just completely being exposed here. Finally, we have a good penalty system and penalties are flying all over our shoulders. Lap 35, Captain Hamilton 5 seconds. And yeah, the thing is as well, as we get now we get a gap to Raikkonen, of course. 4.7 seconds, okay. Well, that's not gonna be 9 seconds, which we are going to need, but the question is, are we still going to end up in 3rd? Or in 4th or 5th even? Because on the minimap you can see that there are a few cars behind us. Where is Vettel? If Vettel is behind Raikkonen in 4th, then where is he? It would be nice as well, to be honest, as we have our teammate in front going to lap him. Painful moment for him probably. It would be nice if the engineer could maybe have some information on where Vettel is and stuff like that. I think you can in fact request that, so yeah, maybe I shouldn't complain. So teammate is a bit holding us up, not too bad though, he gets out of the way nicely there. Maybe, just maybe, if Raikkonen gets held up massively by traffic, massively held up, then we could take advantage of it. Remember we had a crazy race in Austria, I believe, in this series as well, where I think it was Raikkonen as well who actually got taken out by a back marker. Oh, who knows, maybe it happens this time as well. There's one positive from this race, which is that Rosberg didn't finish. But to be honest, my driving standards for the next race have got to be, a bit better. But honestly, I said it before, this is one of those tracks where you sometimes, get those cuts. Corners are quite long here and there, sometimes they aren't. But it's very easy to cut and extend, especially in those long corners. And the curbs are very, very flat. And there we go, across the line.
Mercedes have this year, as shown again today with a brilliant race victory.
It really was a great performance, and one that I think will be remembered for a long time to come.
It was great having you with us for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Until next time though, goodbye.
So indeed being demoted down to 4th place in the end. And what I found interesting right now is that Rosberg finished in 7th. We are still leading the championship. But because Hamilton took this victory and we were in 4th, Hamilton is now a threat as well. And so for the final 3 rounds of the season, the championship only has got closer. 291 points, 5 points ahead of both Hamilton and Rosberg. Next race, Brazil. 2 more races to go. We have this one behind us, but I really thought that Rosberg had a DNF. See, this is what I meant with commentating on it a little bit later. You don't exactly know how the race exactly went anymore. I thought Rosberg had a DNF, but in the end he didn't. So something major must have happened to Rosberg that he was all the way down into like 19th place, I believe. In the end he finished 7th, so a good recovery drive from him. But at least he didn't score as many points as we did. But Hamilton can say that from us as well. You know, he scored more points than we did. And so 2 more races to go in this championship, and it could indeed be, you know, a thriller. I thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like. That is pretty much it for me. I hope to get Brazil quite soon. And that's it for me. See you next time. Goodbye.